So this pencast is on applications involving geometry. And example A says a volleyball court is twice as long as it is wide. If the perimeter is 177 feet, find the dimensions of the court. Anytime we're dealing with a problem involving geometry, the best thing to do is first draw a picture. And here it says it's twice as long as it is wide, so let's just draw our volleyball court. And it doesn't have to be to scale, we're just giving ourselves a rough sketch of the volleyball court. So there's our rectangular volleyball court, and it's twice as long as it is wide. So it doesn't tell us anything about how wide it is, so that's our variable. So we'll call the width W. But once we know the width W, we know it's twice as long. So it's 2 times the width, or 2W. Since it's a rectangle, the other width is also W, and the other length is also 2W. Now it tells us that the perimeter, which means the perimeter is when you add up all 4 sides, the perimeter is 177 feet, and it asks us to find the dimensions of the court. So if the perimeter, in general terms, is equal to the first width plus the second width plus the length plus the other length, we know that the perimeter is 177 feet. Our widths are W, so we have W plus W, and our lengths are both 2W, so we write 2W plus 2W. So that gives us 177 is equal to, now these are all like terms, so we've got W plus W plus 2W plus 2W. Well, each of these W's is 1W. So we've got 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 2 is 4, plus 2 is 6. So we have 6W. Now all we need to do is get rid of that multiplication of 6, so we divide by 6 on both sides. And when we do that, we get 29.5 feet. So I'm going to write that W equals 29.5 feet. Now our length is equal to 2W, or twice the width. So that's 2 times 29.5, which gives us 59 feet. So our width is 29.5 feet, and our length is 59 feet. In example B, this one's a little bit more complex, and it's a two-parter. So it says Raul would like to build a rectangular dog run in the rear of his backyard, away from the house. The width of the yard is 12½ yards, and Raul wants an entire area of 100 yards squared for his dog. And then there's 2 questions. The first one says find the dimensions of the dog run. The second says how much fencing would Raul need to enclose the dog run. Well, when they're asking about fencing, we want to make a note that this is, if we've got a dog run, we want to know how much fencing would it take to completely enclose that dog run, and that's the perimeter. So now we know that question B is a perimeter question. They also give us a diagram which shows us the house, the width of the yard, and then the dog run. And they also tell us that they want us to call the width X, or the length X. We know that the width is 12½ yards. Alright, so we know that the area of the dog run is 100 yards squared. And we also know the formula for area, which is length times width, or base times height. So area, and I'm going to call it base times height, because that's the one we normally use now. We know the area is 100 yards squared, so I'm just going to plug in 100 for area. Now we've got the base and the height. Well, the base is usually the bottom of the shape, but we know that we've got X here, so the other piece, the other base has to be X as well. So we've got X times, now the height here is going to be the width of the house. So that's 12.5 yards. Now it will be easier when we're working with this, instead of calling it 12.5, to call it 12.5. So I'm going to rewrite this as 100 equals 12.5x. Remember that this just represents multiplication, so it's 12.5 times x, and multiplication is commutative, so we can switch the order. Now to solve this, all I need to do is divide both sides by 12.5. And when I do that, I get 8. So x equals 8. And then the units, if you remember, were in yards squared, so this is going to be 8 yards. So this represents, in our problem, they tell us that the width of the yard is 12.5. So we can call this the width. Also, we know that our 12.5 yards is going to be the length. It doesn't really matter which one you call width and which one you call length. But those are the dimensions of our dog run. Now we want to know how much fencing he's going to need to enclose the dog run. And remember, we said that that was going to be the perimeter. And the perimeter is adding up the sides. We know that x is 8 in both cases, and then the length is 12.5 in both cases. So what we need to do to find the perimeter is add these up. So it's 12.5 plus 12.5 plus 8 plus 8. Well, 12 plus 12 is 24, and 1/2 plus 1/2 is 1. So that gives us 25, plus 8 plus 8 is 16. And 25 plus 16 is 41. Once again, these measurements were in yards, so it's 41 yards.